What is going on, Batch community? It's good to see you. For some of you that know, my name is Kyle Redmond, and today we have the pleasure of interviewing Ty Taylor, aka the Flip Man. So to give everybody a little bit of context on Ty landed his first deal, believe it or not, in 2003. Okay, that's not 2023, that's 2003. And the way he did it was by putting out bandit signs on the side of the road. Okay, so let that kind of like resonate. Have you guys ever seen like "I will buy your house no matter what condition it's in" on the side of the road? That was Ty in 2003. So Ty primarily focuses on acquiring commercial real estate properties. So that basically includes like multifamily properties, self-storage, hotels, and retail centers, right? But one thing I wanted him to dive deep into today, which I believe isn't talked about enough in this industry, is land. Okay, so land is something that has been around for a very, very long time. Okay. And there's amazing techniques that Ty teaches within his own business on how to go and get land. Okay. And flip that land. But before we dive in, I think it's appropriate really to understand who Ty is. Right. And what makes him tick and what really got him into this industry and what keeps him here. So I think like another thing that is going to be very valuable for you to hear is like Ty's take on the current market conditions, right? And how he has weathered the storm of recessions and economic fluctuations and the housing crash at the end of the day, right? Like 2007, 2008, and what that's like to go through and how he's been able to stay here and literally continue to weather the storm and provide value and literally knock this game out of the park. So currently what I believe is everybody's calling for a recession. Right? Personally believe that everybody's felt the sting of Q3 and Q4 of last year. I know I sure have. And listen, like I want to address it. I want to prepare you guys for what we think is maybe coming. And I want you guys to knock it out of the park like Ty has done over and over and over again. So Ty is basically a coach. He's a mentor. He does one-on-one work as well. He's nationally known across the industry. I'm sure you guys have seen him on other podcasts and webinars as well. He's flipped thousands of properties and has a YouTube channel, which is my favorite, with over 114,000 subscribers. I highly advise every one of you to go on there and subscribe. But not only does he have a successful YouTube channel, he also has a very successful TikTok with a whopping 293 followers. So this man obviously knows his stuff at the end of the day. So let's go ahead, buckle up, everybody. So with further ado, I give to you Ty Taylor, the Flip Man. What's up, Ty? How you doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me, man. I'm glad everyone that's shown up. Glad to be here, man. You reached out to me. Well, like I said, we've been talking about this for a few months, actually.
Yeah.
Whatever. And so glad to be here to try to put this together. Hopefully help some people either start or continue on their current journey. So
yeah. So I think like the way to start this off, Ty, is I kind of gave everybody a little glimpse of who you are, but I think everybody is dying to know like who is Ty Taylor, the Flip Man, and what should the audience know about you when it comes to your story and your journey of becoming successful as a real estate investor?
All right. So where I grew up, I'm not one of these individuals that has like always had an entrepreneur mindset or whatever. It came to me, I guess, the bug, in my early 20s. Growing up, the only two things I really cared about as a teenager or whatever is playing basketball and girls. I think I listened to something when I was in college or whatever that sort of just changed my mindset on, working for yourself versus working for someone else, which, both are fine as long as you're happy. So fast forward 2002, and one of my friends, his now wife, were going to school to become real estate agents. And the guy that normally taught the class, he wasn't there, but the guy that substituted for him, he didn't talk about being an agent that night. He talked about being a real estate investor and using creative methods of no money down to invest. And so so my friend, knowing how I was in college, he mentioned it to me. So this was like in October of 2002. So I didn't really act upon it because, I thought I thought it was a lot of fluff. Because I've always was under the impression in order to get into real estate, you had to have money and or credit or combination of those, right? So fast forward a couple more months, December, I was at my mom's house for Christmas. Back then, a lot of infomercials would come on real early in the morning. So Carlton Sheets, I used to have this infomercial on no money down real estate investing. I had seen it before, but since my friend had mentioned, the no money down stuff that he got taught in that class that night, I watched it from beginning to end. Didn't learn anything, but it made me think at the end of that is he can't be lying about all of this. So when I got back to Birmingham, I went to this entrepreneur message board and asked the question, does Carlton Sheets program really work? And only one person replied. And he was like, yes, it does. But I didn't know anything about real estate. I'm talking like nothing about real estate. So I felt I had to go through all of it or whatever. So it took me about 3 weeks. If I wasn't at work, if I wasn't sleeping, and the chick I was dating at the time, the times I was spending with her. And so the three things that stuck out to me were lease options, bandit signs, and wholesaling, because I'm an introvert. So generating business by just walking up to people or cold calling or any of that, that'll be the challenge for me. But if I can put a message out there and people call me, which bandit signs would do, then it allowed me to hey, and I put the sign out there because I want something. So we're on the same page. So that really stood out to me. I ordered $250 for around 50 signs. So I picked those signs up. I put them all out on a Sunday morning. The very first 2 calls, I know it sounds like unbelievable, but the very first 2 calls I received were deals.
And fast forward, you're here now. So I think the next thing is, Shai, if you want to go ahead and share your screen, we could jump into your presentation.
So I want to go ahead and just get into wholesaling land. All right. So with land, the reason I ignored it is, like I said, I didn't understand it. And so it wasn't presented in the initial training that I got my hands on back in 03. And so like with anything, when you're trying to see how you can make money on something, you need to know the end game. Now for houses, that's the ARV. What will a house appraise for in excellent condition? So because you have to think in terms of how is the investor going to make their money? So once you determine that, now you can backdoor to see what price point you need to be at based on the condition of the property to make the deal work. Now, people go about it different ways, but that's the starting point. What is the end game? So with land, it's not as simple to be able to determine that. On how much is it? Well, it's not really an ARV, but how much is the land worth? Because there's so many other factors that'll go into it. And then sometimes it's just as simple, you don't have anything to compare it to. So with houses, even for us as wholesalers or anyone that's a real estate investor, if you don't have a house to compare or there are no comparables in the area, it makes it difficult for you to do a deal on it. So same thing with land, but that's it's viewed as it's hard to tell what it's worth. Okay, so with that being said, why you should pay attention to it is part of the reason why you're not paying attention to it. And most people don't pay attention to it is because fear from other investors is the reason that a lot of investors never do it. Even though, like I said, if you're doing the proper amount of marketing that you should be doing as a wholesaler, because most people here, I'm assuming that's what they're pursuing, is that you're going to get leads that are land leads. Now, sometimes it may still be a house on the property, but the real value is that it's sitting on 20 acres. It may not be that the house itself really has any value, but it's sitting on 20 acres and it may be in the path of progress or whatever. So less competition. So it goes back to what I'm just talking about. There's going to be fewer people competing for land versus houses, because if you just start to YouTube search the amount of people out there that's talking about wholesaling houses versus the number of people out there talking about wholesaling land, and look at the views on some of those videos with the people talking about wholesaling land versus houses, it's ridiculous. And I've watched personally videos of guys explaining different things about land. They may have 343 views on it, but that video is like, wow, like just, wow. Like only 343 people watched this video. But you'll see that over and over again with land, just over and over again. Whereas you will see a video about wholesaling houses and it may have 200,000 or 300,000 views on it. And that's very common or whatever. So another thing that why you should be paying attention to land, different from houses, with land, the owner has never made any money on it. They've never made any money on it. In a lot of cases, it's only cost them money, if nothing but just paying property taxes on it or the maintenance of it if they're actually trying to keep it up or whatever by, mowing the lawn or wherever. In a lot of cases, they don't owe anything on the property, which with houses is very common. I think the number on houses, I think like 60% of the houses has some type of debt on it. Now, I'm not sure what that number is with land parcels towards the debt ratio, but I can just from my experience on the number of people that we talk to on a daily basis that own land, is very low as for the number of people that actually have debt on the land. Probably the best thing that I love about it, comparing it to houses, the door is always open. And it makes it so much easier to virtual wholesale. And what I mean by that is that with a house, you'll have a seller, and you all have done this long enough. You have the property on the contract and the house is vacant and the seller still won't give you a key to allow you to put a lockbox on the property. Every time the house is shown, they want to be there. You're going to have those situations. That's what a vacant house. Obviously, if the seller lives in the house, they're going to want to be there when it's shown. Or it may be a situation they have a renter or a relative or whoever in the house. They're normally going to want to be there then also. Now, you obviously have a situation where you can get a lockbox, put it on the boom, it's vacant. Those are beautiful. But with land, that won't be always the case because sometimes the owner will live on the property or next door to it or across the street. So it would be still similar to a house where they won't give you a key because if people just start showing up to the property and just start out and they go out and walk on the property, the owner's going to say, hey, who are you? This is my property here, blah, blah, blah. So that does happen. But in a lot of cases, they don't live anywhere near the property. And so when I say the door is always open, unless there's a fence around it, which is still the door is basically open, the seller, you don't have to worry about the seller and the buyer meeting and you having someone there, whether it's you or someone that represents you, to mediate the situation or whatever. So that's one of the best things. And that makes it easier to virtual wholesale land than houses. Just that one fact alone is that you need less boots on the ground per se to assist you with just managing the seller and the buyer. Owner financing with land, as I said, going back up to one of these points here, is that it has never made them money in a lot of cases. It's only cost them money. So they are so open, much more open to owner financing versus houses. All right, now, so there are different types of land, obviously, in the sense of sizes. So if you're going to just say, hey, I'm going to just only target properties within the city, okay? So we call those infill lots because you're normally not going to find tracts of land large enough to do like a full-fledged development of any sort as far as houses. Maybe large enough to place a commercial building of some sort, depending on the commercial asset type. But with houses, if you're talking about doing a certain number of houses, a lot of times when you're dealing in a condensed area, as far as population, you can really only just search for infill lots. So what I mean by that is like you're going to have a house on the left, a house on the right, but in the middle, there's an open space that's large enough to place a house on that lot right there. So that's called an infill lot. We did an infill lot down in Miami, and when I sent it over for her to evaluate, I thought it was a deal, but I wasn't sure, and the lot was only like 0.14 of an acre. May not even been that. We got it in the contract. I got it in the contract where she told me that we could probably sell it for about $90,000, and so she said offer them 60. I offered them 50. They originally wanted 150, but I offered them 50 and got it under contract for the 50.
Wow.
Wholesaled it for that 90. We had to pay an agent and I think we split right around $32,000 on that. So choosing a target area. All right. So it's important that whenever you're choosing a target area, it really doesn't matter that you live near it or not. It's the same thing with houses or whatever, but with land, it really doesn't matter. Like, really doesn't matter. So are you going to do infill lots or are you going to try to do larger tracts of land, which I encourage? If you're going to do larger tracts of land, when I say larger, an acre, 5 acres, 10 acres and plus and up, it's best to look for surrounding counties of a metropolitan area because normally that's where the growth is going. That's where the new subdivisions are built. new self-storage, even new apartments, retail space, and so on. Normally, that's the path of progress. Now, with houses, it's not that difficult to figure out where new subdivisions are being built, okay? And so I'm going to get into that, probably more so at the end of this. And so you have to choose an area. So I'm just giving you options here. Now, the size of the lots, and whenever you're doing your filters and batch leads, you can put in the sizes of lot. An acre is 43,560 square feet. And so now it's going to build your list based on whether you're going to target a county, I think you do zip code, or the name of a city. Now it's going to target properties that fit that criteria if you're trying to target 10 acres plus. All right. So probably best to target by county more so than zip code. I would target by county. But now, if you're targeting something close to a subdivision, then it's best to probably do it by zip code. The list will be small, but at least you'll be condensed in that area where that existing subdivision is. You're trying to piggyback off of that development that has occurred, that you can find something there that may be attractive to a potential developer of residential. Or normally, if you ever notice and pay attention, when new development happens, normally self-storage follows right behind it. If you ever just try to pay attention to that. Like a new development with maybe a multifamily, as far as apartments are built, self-storage normally follows shortly after that. Normally, a lot of times they may be built at the same time or whatever. So, all right, so now how are we going to reach these owners? So you built your list using batch. So how are you going to reach them? Now, multiple ways here. Now, 3 of these you can handle with batch services through batch dialer, batch leads, which is the text messaging, and the direct mail. Now, I've never used the direct mail. You can do that in mass numbers, right?
Of course. Yeah. Batch leads, you can do direct mail. I was just talking to a gentleman yesterday and he's like, yeah, I'm shooting fish in a barrel with it. Yeah.
Okay,
So you just basically take the same list that you create, go and push it to campaigns. Campaigns is where you would go ahead and do direct mail.
Okay, cool. All right. So then Google AdWords, that's more of a next level thing. It can be quite expensive to do that, which means you have to have a website, which is not that expensive, not that big of a deal, not that costly to do. But Google AdWords itself is an expensive on taking. Facebook ads is a different animal as far as figuring out what works there. It's not as expensive as Google AdWords, but it's just different. But it is a method to the madness on that. Let me just real quick to iterate on Google AdWords is that it's expensive, but the leads that you get for something from Google AdWords is probably different than anything else because someone has literally typed in their phone or their laptop, desktop, or tablet and said, sell my land fast, sell my Cook County land, sell my Jefferson County land. And so similar to when someone sees a bandit sign message and they call you, same thing, but they literally have searched you out. So they click on the link, go to your website, boom, they send you a message or give you a call. But it's very expensive in the sense that if you don't have probably about $5,000 a month to spend on it and be consistent with that probably for 3 to 4 months, don't even start it. Don't even start it.
I agree.
So, yeah, that's the next level of this stuff after you some people may start out with that type of war chest. I get it. That's fine. But if you're just starting, I wouldn't even consider it until you actually made some money. You want to put that back into that particular marketing technique. Okay. All right. So we went through what we're going to target. We went through how we're going to target it. So what are we going to say when we do start to get these leads in? So now, obviously, you can adjust this script however you want, but this is just some basic things that you're going to need to know. And I sort of went over some of it already. All right, so hi, my name is Ty, calling to speak with the owner about buying their property at 123 Main Street. Or in some cases, the property may not have an address, or you may say in Dealey County or whatever the name of the street is. Again, sometimes parcels of land only just have the parcel ID or the property ID. So you may have to identify it based on the community, the county, the city, or whatever, because it may not have a physical address. Just want to make sure that that was clear there. And so your follow-up will be, do I have the right person? If yes, okay, great. Do you have a moment to discuss your property? And hopefully we can agree on a price that creates a win-win for both of us. If they say no, we always want to follow up. Do you have any other properties you would like to sell? Okay. All right. So assuming they say yes. So now presenting this in just bullet points because you're having a conversation. You don't want to ever sound like you're reading. You're just having a conversation. But from the conversation, you know the things you need to know in order to be able to evaluate the property. So again, so here are the things information that you'll need to be able to evaluate the properties. All right, so you want to verify the address. Okay, obviously, as I said before, it may be a parcel or a property ID. Sometimes you can locate their property if it doesn't have an address, if there's an actual address next door or across the street. Another way to, when it doesn't have an address to identify the property, is that the tax bill has to go somewhere. And so of where the tax bill is going, the property tax bill is going, is a reference address that you could probably use to pull up this property in their name. So keep that in mind. So if they don't know the parcel ID, they can't give you an identifying address next door across the street, then the next thing you want is try to find out where does the tax bill go? And you could probably at that point figure out the address of that property through linked properties that they own. Okay, so the next thing you want to know, and sometimes they will know, sometimes they won't. You'll want to know the size of the lot or the parcel or parcels. Okay, you'll want to know any utilities ever been connected. Why is that important? That can increase or decrease the value of a property quickly if utilities there or never have been. Okay, one of the things, like someone mentioned, I think early on, we said that they do mobile homes. Mobile homes is a great way to find larger tracts of land, targeting mobile home properties that are for sale. The mobile home is not where the value is in the property. The amount of acreage that is sitting on, it may be the real value. That's a great way to find a potential deal that may be underpriced because they may be pricing it based on the value of the mobile home, but they may be sitting on 32 acres. And because the mobile home part of it, we do know at least this. They may be sitting on 32 acres. We do know at least a portion of it has been developed to place the mobile home in the sense that it's going to at least have power. They may not have sewer connected to it because it may be running on septic, but we at least know they have power, which still goes a long way. Sewer increase the value greatly if sewer is connected there with whatever municipality. So now you'll ask them about wetlands. So you ask them, are there creeks or ponds on the property? Again, depending on where that's located on the property, how much of that makes up the property could increase or decrease the property, because sometimes if something has a pond on it, someone that may want to purchase it, and I keep saying subdivision, sometimes someone just want to purchase it and put multiple mobile homes around that pond. Again, that increases the value of it or whatever. But again, a pond could take away from it because of whatever a potential buyer may want to do with it. Again, going back to road access, you want to find out, does the property have road access? Okay, and so if they say no, it doesn't, you want to find out, has an easement ever been identified on the property? And they may not know that, but they may easily find out for you just in the paperwork that they have that one does exist, but they never looked at it because it wasn't a concern of theirs when they purchased the property. All right, any buildings, structures, etc. on the property. Again, that could be a plus or minus, were there any existing buildings or structures are on the property. Now, again, if you're using mobile homes, sometimes a mobile home may be on the property. If it is, you want to ask them, is it livable? If it isn't, you'll maybe want to ask them, you know what, well, is it something that can be repaired? Because sometimes they can be so dilapidated that you can't, and then sometimes they can be renovated. That can, again, increase the value of the property because you have a structure there that could be turned into something that could be livable with renovations. All right. Body of water on or near the property. So if it's has some lakefront, ocean front, a river front, that can increase the value greatly if that parcel of land basically butts up against a body of water. Now, again, you get into flood zones, but that's expected when you're near water like that. All right. Do you know the current zoning is a question that you'll ask. Now, that's simple for you to find out because you're having a conversation with them, and that can be a rapport building conversation / negotiating conversation, depending on the zoning. But that's something that you can easily find out with a lot of the online tools, such as Batch. But if nothing else, you can just call the county and or the city of that particular property municipality is over it to find out what the current zoning is. And while you have them on the phone, you always want to ask them, well, what can be built on this property based on the current zoning? And then again, this is more of a rapport building thing to get into their real motivation on why they would sell the property. What was their plans for the property when they acquired it, whether they purchased it, they inherited the property or whatever. And that gives you some type of backstory on why they even own the property, and hopefully something that you can use to use it in negotiations. Okay, so after going through those series of questioning or the conversation, you have a lot of information about the property at that point. Now you have to sort of feel people out. Sometimes they don't want to go through all of this, right? So you have to just be careful on that. Okay, so once you collected enough information you can get away with the conversation, is that You pose the magic question, paying all cash and closing quickly. What's the least amount you'll accept for it as is? All right. And so a lot of times, depending on how the lead came in, whether it was a cold call, text message, or whatever, you called me, or that's why I called you, because I want you to give me a price. But sometimes they won't give you a price. At that point, unless you just already know the area, you want to say, hey, okay, well, I have enough information to do some additional research. I can call you back either this afternoon or first thing in the morning, whatever your schedule fits or whatever, or the best time to call you back. But you don't want to let 24 hours elapse for sure before you call them back, unless it's just a time thing where they're not available, or it may be your situation too, but you try to want to keep it in that window if all possible. If you can call them back the same day, if you're forced into making an offer, because ideally, I want them to give me a price whenever I'm doing some negotiation, but it's not always going to be the case, as many of you all know. But whenever you have that conversation back with them, you make your offer, and if it's an offer that they reject, you always want to just simply follow and say, hey, well, obviously I'm trying to get a deal here, but I do want to create a win-win. What is it going to take to get a deal done, right? Something, a recent statement that I learned from Greg Dickerson, who does a lot of commercial, and it's been working. Like once they don't like the price I give them, or we're forced into making an offer, you follow up, hey, well, what is it going to take to get a deal done? What price is it going to take to get a deal done? That tends to work pretty well. Now, the number that they give you still may not work, but that's your goal. You got to get a number out of them, so hey, if you're wasting your time or not. But again, make sure you always, if a price doesn't work for you that they give you, you want to always follow up with offer and owner financing. You want to always do that. Basically, what the closing detail sheet on how I've used it over the years is that, because I do normally 2 purchase and sales agreements. And so the purpose of the closing detail sheet is to explain who's the seller, who's the buyer, obviously the address of the property, the price, who's paying what, and who's receiving what, mainly your assignment fee, and who's covering closing costs, contact information. So in a nutshell, we went through the process of putting a deal together. The biggest part of this is obviously when you do get leads, being able to evaluate those leads. It's just a different animal when you're evaluating land. Now, I'm definitely open. Part of the reason why I was glad to do this is the partnering with the individuals. But if you're going to target land, you're using batch, whether it's through batch dialer or text messaging, the main thing is that with me, I prefer that it's off market. Is my preference.
There you have it. And there you have it. Where do people find you, Ty? And how do people learn more about you?
Well, the easiest thing is to just go to YouTube and do a search for Flip Man, and the channel will take care of the rest in reality. Now, as he said, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram at Ask Flip Man. You can consume the content there, but the real value on what or amount of value that I offer is in the videos, because on YouTube, they can be pretty lengthy or whatever. And so that's I've been putting out content there since August of 2008. So we're looking at almost 15 years, it's over. If you include the YouTube shorts, it's over 1,300 videos there. So I'm not saying you got to watch all of them, but it's literally all there for anyone that wants it, whatever. So
yeah, awesome. Thank you. So once again, thank you all so much. I can't believe you've been on since, 11 o'clock. It's almost 2 hours. It shows how motivated every single one of you are. And just go out there like Jesse Burrell, the CEO, says of Batch, go out there and just get it, right? Take action. This industry isn't going anywhere. We're just going to get bigger and better. And next month, we have some amazing things that we're going to be launching inside of Batch you guys don't even know about. And I'm looking forward to see you guys all on it. So till next time, let's get it.